Hello, welcome back. Another live stream. Today, a book review, possibly the last book review for a little while. I'm sure there will be some more, but we're probably going to move on to doing other things. My suggestion to you is grab some food, some drink, get comfortable. There's a lot to discuss in a very short space of time. And for me, I am doing a review on a book I probably should have done a long time ago, but I kind of have put it off. And I think it was the right decision to put it off. And so for today, I'm going to discuss it and give you my honest opinion of one of my best friend's books. So settle back and enjoy. I hope this is useful to you. And I am ready to go. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, I'm not really here to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm here to talk about roleplay games in general. And so for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss Wally DM's Journal of Puzzle Encounters. This is a review. And frankly, I've known Wally for a long time, so I can assure you that I'm probably biased with regard to this book, but I also think that there is a lot to be said for a book that has gone bestseller on drive-through RPG and gone to the adamantium level, like the highest level you can actually get. In other words, a lot of people have purchased this book. It's the highest award you can get. It is on the bestseller for a product or PDF which is under $5. And so as a result of that, I think it is worthy of discussion for today. And it should have been a discussion point a lot sooner than this. I just hadn't got round to it. So this is the book. This is the book. Wally sent me this book a long time ago. I actually sat down and I talked to Wally about this book and the process of putting it together and what it took to actually do that. You can go and watch that video because he talks about everything, all the tribulations that he went through doing the book and what it was like for him and all the rest. One of the things I have found, and I have to be quite clear with everybody, is that I like the idea of puzzles, okay? I really do. I like the idea of puzzles. But frankly, for me, I don't use a lot of puzzles because my players have never really been that fond of them. I have a couple of people who are, but in an environment when you're playing online and not in person, often they are either too tired or they're just not invested. And so my attempts at incorporating puzzles into my roleplay games has been very unsuccessful. And I'm going to assure you that even when I try to use puzzles from Wally's book, and I picked the easiest one that I could possibly find, I was still unsuccessful. Does that mean that there's something wrong with puzzles? Is there something wrong with this book? None of that applies, in my opinion. I think what is going on here is very specific to certain groups, and my group is like that. Under the right conditions, puzzles work, and under the wrong conditions, puzzles don't work. And I've found that people who don't like puzzles in their roleplay games or Dungeons and Dragons games, they're usually got a particular argument, and an argument that I've seen pop up just recently in the chat. And the argument is that puzzles are the worst type of thing that you can put into a Dungeons and Dragons game or a roleplay game. I don't agree with that. And the argument goes that it requires player knowledge and intelligence and not character knowledge. Again, a rubbish statement, in my opinion. Okay, because the reality is that when you conduct combat and engage in combat, okay, which is another part of Dungeons and Dragons and roleplay games, you are using player knowledge and information, and like your skill as a player takes and comes into part. We're not using character knowledge in that respect. Do you know why? Because it's impossible. It would be ridiculous. You're not an actor playing out the role written for you in a movie or from a book. So Dungeons and Dragons has always had that element of the player's skill is required in some aspect. So here are the things that I have to say about Wally's book. Ultimately, this book is a Dungeon Master review, and the reason is this book is primarily for Dungeon Masters. It's not the sort of book that's going to be useful to players in any way. Okay, that's just a fact. Now, I'm sure I may have scared a whole lot of people away in terms of my statements just before, but I am going to be completely honest. I've seen arguments about puzzles and the usefulness of them, but I'm going to explain why I think that they're wrong, and this book actually illustrates it very well. The cover art is very simple. It's instructional or instructive. Okay, the design is so instructive that it illustrates and instructs you on what the book is about, which is really cool. It's basically a group of adventurers inspecting a jeweled owl statue. Now you might read that as, oh, they're stealing the jewels or gems from the eyes of the statue, or it's a puzzle. And often people don't realize that a lot of things are in fact puzzles in Dungeons and Dragons and roleplay games, but this is definitely a puzzle book. The interior artwork is a mixed style, which I would say is representative of cartoony, kind of. There's some very simple, clean depictions that usually serve a purpose, not always, but usually serve a purpose. Some of it is kind of, I would say, digital in nature, some of the artwork. It's definitely been taken by a number of different artists, and Wally's made sure to give them credit where credit is due, not only in the front of the book, but also through the book itself. So you'll see the name of the artist by the artwork. I can assure you now that this is not high-end artwork. If you are thinking about WotC or Kobold Press, I don't think that a lot of the artwork here is of that level. What I would say is some of the artwork in here is surprisingly clever, and I suspect are simple drawings that Wally has done himself, and they actually come off really well, and they're the maps. I'm pretty sure those are Wally's, so I just thought I'd point that out. Wally was really nervous that I was going to do this review, by the way. The contents page makes it easy to find everything fast in this book. It also acts as a perfect index. Now, one of the things you'll know is I always give books a hard time about not having an index in here. And this book doesn't have an index. It just has a contents page. But everything on the contents page is in the book. Everything. Okay, so you can find absolutely everything in this book that you would be looking for or might want to look for just by using the contents page. And so therefore, you don't need to have an index. Now, maybe other designers have been trying to do that for a long time, very unsuccessfully, because their books are like 250 pages long. Wizards of the Coast talking about you. But this guy has managed to do that, and I think it's quite brilliant. It explains how to use the book clearly. It explains that, and it gives you the types of puzzles. They are defined in the book as well. And there's quite a few different types of puzzles. Obviously, there's a broad range. Wally's had a lot of experience doing this, and therefore he's got a pretty good understanding of how puzzles work. The book's layout is exceptional, with minimal page flipping required to understand how a puzzle works. In other words, if the puzzle is one page, it's only on one page. It's not crossing over two different pages. There's no flipping from one page to the other. I know Wally did this deliberately because I've talked to him about it. He's also, if the puzzle covers 2 pages, they're placed on the left and the right, so you don't have to flip to the next page to get to it. Are there puzzles in here that cover more than 2 pages? Yes, there is. But it's very rare. Surprisingly, extremely unusual. I think there may be 1 in there out of the whole lot. So that makes it so easy for you to run. You don't have to go and find stuff. It's all in one place. Okay, which is one of the things we dislike about any kind of book, is flipping through pages. What I will say about this book is I did find a spelling mistake on page 7 and an extra word on page 9, so the editing is not flawless. Wally knows this, and he informs me that he's actually updating the PDF. There'll be version 1.1. I don't know if that will translate into the print copy that you can buy in softcover or hardcover on Drive-Thru RPG. But I know that the PDF is being updated to correct some of the mistakes in the book. Those are the only mistakes I found. I'm sure that Wally already is aware, and he's told me he is aware of some of the errors in the book, and they are getting rectified. So, you know, but it's not unusual to find some errors in books, and he's got probably, I mean, his book is so small, it would be easy to find them. And I scoured the thing, so I found 2. There's probably more, but I'm sure Wally will let me know if I got that wrong. Okay, now let's talk about the puzzles. Each puzzle is broken down into the type of puzzle. It gives you like the location it can be used in a dungeon or a adventure. The number of rooms involved in the puzzle, because often these puzzles require you to have multiple rooms. The difficulty, is it easy, medium, or hard? Okay. What puzzles it can be combined with. So some of the puzzles can be incorporated with another puzzle if you wanted to sort of make it a little bit more complicated. It's an option, you don't have to do it. What the puzzle keys are. So usually there's a section that states what you need to collect or have to decipher or complete the puzzle before that explains how the puzzle works. Then it explains pretty clearly, in most cases, pretty clearly how the puzzle works. There were a few that I struggled with, but I'm not very good with puzzles in the first place. Like, I mean, the fact that I'm doing a review on a puzzle book is a miracle. It really is. So it must say a lot about this book. It also gives you the solution for the puzzle, not just in explaining how the puzzle works, gives you the solutions. And sometimes there's more than one solution. You'll also find there, and very importantly, there are hints for the players in the book. And it's usually in text form. It might advise you to include a investigation or intelligence check or some sort of knowledge check. It never gives you a number. That's always up to you as the dungeon master. You don't even have to use that. And in fact, frankly, I think giving the players a dice roll isn't necessarily going to be that useful. And I'm glad that Wally hasn't included it. What he has done, though, is he's given you a range of different clues. Each clue in itself is slightly better than the next. So you can give them, you know, if you want to do a dice roll, you could give them, if they only get a 10, you could give them just the clue that only gives them a bit of information. Or maybe you give them a better clue out of the list that is provided, and that is based on because you got a dice roll of a 15 or a 20. So it's totally up to you as the dungeon master how you do that. So it's completely moldable. Then there's another section in here about how to make the puzzle your own. I've never actually seen anybody do anything quite like this. And I did tell Wally when I was given the book, even though I hadn't gone through it extensively, which I have now, that I was like kind of dumbfounded how well it worked. Like, how did you manage to do that? And it's because Wally's been doing it for years, and Wally's actually a pretty exceptional dungeon master, even if he would never admit to it. I know this because of the stuff that he's done in the past. There are 60 puzzles, but some of these puzzles have multiple versions. Okay, so the same basic idea. So the prismatic owl is one where there's 4 different versions. Some of them have like 2 different versions. Now you would probably look at that and say, well, it's like, repeat material. I think in many respects, even though it is a different version of the same concept, they are often significantly different enough that you can consider them different puzzles. And I think that's why Wally he's put them in there, to sort of show you that you can have the same kind of concept going on, but what you get at the end of it is a different rationale or goal that sort of leads you in the same direction. But, maybe the keys that you're required to make it all work are slightly different. It's very clever. And I think that it is not a waste of space to have them there. Although that was my initial reaction when I saw those repeat all versions there. But I was wrong, because once I had a closer look, I realized why he had done it, and what the benefit was of having them. They are actually, even though the theme behind them is so similar, they are actually different puzzles. The range of different puzzles is extremely wide. Lots of creative flair going into this. Like, the sorts of things that he's come up with are quite remarkable. You could include it in any roleplay game fairly easily. But Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder would be a piece of cake. Some of the puzzles are the actual adventure, like literally a puzzle that is the adventure itself, or could be the focus for the whole adventure. There are some puzzles in here that are written like a series of tasks to complete, and at the end, that's the adventure. You could obviously include some battles or combat in there. Some of the puzzles are actually combat focused, or got a combat element to them. So it even shows you how to turn a battle or combat, because there's an example in here, into a puzzle. Like, that's quite creative in many respects. I know some people might be thinking, well, no, I could figure that out, but I actually thought it was quite brilliant. Because people have talked about it, but they've never actually demonstrated how to do it. And it's super simple too, super simple. I would say that generally the puzzles that are the easiest to complete, okay, or really easy to follow, yeah, I would say as a general, yes, most of the puzzles are easy enough to follow. But there are some in here that are also very hard puzzles, and they are difficult to follow. Now, there's probably a couple of reasons for that. I will explain. I think the vast majority, though, are very well explained. But there are some that I really struggled with. Now, I don't know if that's because I'm just not used to puzzles or it wasn't communicated that well. It may be a combination of both, okay? All right, so some of the puzzles are quite complex. So when he writes down hard, he really does mean hard, okay? Certainly I found them extremely hard, but then I've never been very good at completing his puzzles anyway. You'll need a lot of time to study them and to successfully communicate them to your players without confusing them. Those really, really complex, hard puzzles, you really will need to study them extensively to get to grips with them so you can communicate them. Because if you don't understand what's going on and your ability to communicate the puzzle to your players has got any barriers whatsoever, then your players are never going to figure it out, right? So, but I would say that the vast majority of these puzzles aren't actually in the hard category. There are times when the illustrations aren't very useful, and a different picture would have communicated the puzzle much better. I was looking through this and I felt like there were times where the image itself communicated only part of what I needed to know, and that a picture, because I'm a visual person, would have made it a lot easier for me to understand the puzzle. Often the puzzles need additional pictures. I would say definitely handouts to help present the puzzle to not just the dungeon master but the players. So you may find yourself having to make some handouts for these puzzles yourself. Now, if he had included additional pictures and additional handouts, the book would have been bigger, it would have cost more to make, and it would have cost you more to actually get it. And I think this book, for the cost that is going into it and how much he's managed to present, is quite amazing. But, you know, if it had those other things, I would have been like, it would be hard to fault a lot of the stuff that he had there if he had those extra pictures and handouts. And I kind of feel like that's only because I have really scrutinized the book to a large extent. There are maps in the book, but I found myself needing more graphic maps or map representations for many of the multi-room puzzles in particular. If there's a multi-room involved in a puzzle, it was difficult for me to like, okay, is this the room to the north, the south, the east, or the west? And a small picture would have made it abundantly clear to me. And he does this sometimes, but not with every single puzzle, because there are many puzzles that have multiple rooms. Again, space may have been an issue. There are also times when a room will have multiple doors or multiple passageways leading from it. And those are times when just a picture of that room and the doors in that room with a north-south and with a compass rose would have made a huge difference for my understanding to make it easier as I'm reading through. So more than half the puzzles in the book have a YouTube video demonstration, which is not something anyone does but Wally DM. So if you were struggling with the lack of illustrations and handouts, you can just jump onto YouTube and go to his YouTube channel, and he will show you how to run the puzzle, which frankly it's unheard of. Like, does anybody do that? Does anybody make a puzzle book and then make a video showing you how it works? And more than half of the puzzles in here have video demonstrations. Like, so the sort of support you're getting for a product like this is pretty amazing. Well, there's nobody else doing anything like that anywhere. I don't know about anybody who does anything like that anywhere. The easiest and shortest puzzles seem to be the strongest entries due to their elegant design, and there's some very elegant design in here. So the puzzles that are like one page and are listed as being easy are often the best puzzles in the book, because they're so simple for you to understand and communicate to your players, and they're so well laid out that their communication is set for you. The chances are you will do extremely well with those puzzles. They are my favorite. I have talked to Wally, and Wally has always told me that the easiest puzzles are usually his favorite in any kind of any book. And I can see why. I understand why. I think that is the strongest entry for all of his puzzles, is the easiest ones and the shortest ones. Now you might be thinking, well, that's no good if they're the easy and the short. Well, the players will get them every single time. That's not necessarily the case. Just because a puzzle is listed as easy doesn't mean that players will find it easy to complete. That is always the problem that dungeon masters have, because they have the solution. Okay? And presenting a puzzle, as Wally has indicated to me on many occasions, is not a factor of the puzzle, it is a factor of how a dungeon master presents it, and giving out those clues and hints and tips as time passes. And you never, one of the things that Wally made it clear to me is like, if the puzzle's going on more than 10 or 15 minutes, you may be doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe there's too much going on for this puzzle if they are getting stuck after 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. Right, so now that we've talked about all of that, let's talk about the stuff that isn't a puzzle that he has also included in the book. There are 100 weird dungeon rooms, a huge collection of creative ideas, really good ones, and encounters for an adventure, or adventures, frankly. They will serve a dungeon master well. I was looking at them and I was amazed at how well he had come up with. And look, those rooms that he has created are based on pop culture. You will recognize many of the ideas in there and then realize, gosh, why didn't I think about that? That's what Wally's done. He's provided you with 100 locations that you could easily port into your homebrew campaign or another dungeon. Like, every time you find an empty room or you need something somewhere, this table will do pretty much all of the work. And then there's some filling in of spaces, but it's a really good idea chart. And there's 100 of them. It's one of the best aspects of the book, out of many of the great aspects of this book. The magic items are unique. There's not a lot of them, but they are very unique. They're very weird and remarkably useful with really interesting utility functions. My favorite has to be the gloves of elasticity. It is basically turning you into Mr. Stretch Show or Mr. Fantastic to a certain extent. It is a common magic item. Like he's actually got a lot of just simple common magic items in here. Things that really won't break the game. They're not really things you'll use in combat. Though you'll use them during exploration or some other aspect of your game. Maybe solving a puzzle or surprisingly maybe even engaging in a social interaction. So I really liked his inclusion of magic items. But he's also, on top of that, what he's done is he's included 5 legendary magic items. That's right, legendary magic items. They are examples of player customization at Wally's table. They're actually magic items he's pulled from his own game, and you can see what he's done with them. I suspect that many of those magic items have grown in power over time. He even lists the character that is currently holding that magic item. Out of the 5 legendary magic items that he includes, my favorite has to be the sentient ochre jelly of absorption. Basically, an ochre jelly, a monster, has been turned in its small size. It's not its normal size. It's like a pet that you just take around with you. He's obviously cottoned into the fact that he's got a player who really likes the idea of having a pet and it being a pet ooze. It takes me back to and actually reminds me a little bit of the adventure, the animated movie Treasure Planet. And there's that little globby thing that floats around and can form himself into different shapes, and he's like the comic relief. And this particular magic item is like that, as far as I can tell. And he presents like a whole bunch of really useful features. Really, really clever. I would anybody else have thought of that? I don't know. Wally has loaded the book with pop culture. I'm 50 and Wally is not. He's younger than I am. But I know that he likes pop culture, and he's injected a lot of pop culture into here, a lot of literature references, the Ghostbusters, the Wizard of Oz. It just goes on and on and on. Video games, older video games and so forth. To the point, he's put so much pop culture and literature references in there, he's actually got a page that talks about the Easter eggs. There's a page that just discusses that. And I thought it was really clever. You will, if you look at it, you'll notice them. Going back the last 20 years in terms of pop culture, sometimes even further. There's a section on the process of creating a puzzle. And it's broken down into the solution. So you start with the solution, and then you figure out your mechanics, you figure out your clues, your environment, what the rewards will be for actually completing the puzzle. And often he explains that the completion of the puzzle should often be the reward rather than they get a magic item. Hints, what sort of hints you're going to give the players if they struggle, and the consequences of failure. Now, it's one page on how to do that. I think it's explained very well. I know that Wally has often spent a long time, not weeks, months, or years, working on puzzles to get them to the completed stage. And even with this page, it's not like you're going to be able to figure things out. Wally's always made it clear to me that even if he explains to people what he does and the process and breaks it down, it's not necessarily the sort of situation where you just come up with the answers just like that. That's why he's got a whole community around him on Discord that actually, the whole community work on a puzzle. They come up with the solutions to build the whole thing. They do it together. More brains makes the job easier. So I thought it was good for him to include that process there, but don't get any delusions that it's going to make it super easy to make puzzles anymore, because it won't. Making puzzles is actually very, very difficult. Although there are certain things in roleplay games and Dungeons & Dragons that are puzzles, but people don't think they are. And just navigating a maze is a puzzle. A very simple puzzle, but it's still a puzzle. Okay, the book is small. It's got about 84 pages, but it's well priced for the size of the book that it is and the content that's in it. Considering how complete it is. It's very, very complete. It's not like some of the other, like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The puzzles in that are really hard to understand, and I do not find them even remotely appealing in the slightest. Yet when I look at this book, I am much more drawn to the possibility of actually running puzzles, even though I struggle with them myself, and I know my players don't particularly like them. I still want to use them, but I need to refrain myself. It really does make you want to run puzzles in your game. My summary. There's nothing like this book made by anyone, as far as I can tell. The level of expert understanding is... It's only something that Wally could do, frankly. It's what dungeon masters need out of a puzzle book. If you wanted to run puzzles, this is what you need out of a book. Really, really is. And the support around it is, you've got the Discord group, you've got the YouTube channel with all of the demonstrations, and then you've got a collection of ideas. It's not like you're going to use every single one all the time. Is this a perfect book? No. No, it's not a perfect book. Everything can always be done better. And I've been extremely critical. I've probably been more critical of Wally DM's book than I am of Wizards of the Coast, which is like super unfair considering Wally's book is superior in many ways to almost every single book Wizards of the Coast has ever put out. But I'm making it clear now, I am being as critical as I possibly can. I still think that it's light years beyond anything that I've seen out on the market. And I wish Wally all the best in what will probably prove to be just the beginning of something great. I can see Wally doing things that many people are craving for over the years. Okay, I'm hoping that this was useful to you in some way. I have hundreds of videos for players and dungeon masters talking about roleplay games and Dungeons & Dragons 5e, a lot of that. You're welcome to go and check that out if you want to. Please check the description. You will find all the information on Wally's book, where you can buy it if you want to buy it. or any information you're interested in, even including his YouTube channel, because I'm promoting his YouTube channel at the same time. It's a good place to go for a lot of stuff, not just puzzles, but traps as well. He does a lot of traps, but there's not traps in this, although some of them kind of feel like traps at times. Okay, so if you want to support the channel so I keep doing video content like this, you can through Patreon, where you get access to my notes for my videos, and also previews of videos I will release in the future. So all of that is there. You can also support me through the Amazon affiliate links down in the description. The link to Wally's Wally DM's book, Wally DM's Journal of Puzzle Encounters, will support Wally, not me. Okay, I've made it sure that the link is his affiliate link, not my affiliate link. So you're supporting Wally, not me. Okay, but it's there. Or there's the merchandise shelf underneath all of my videos, or just watch my videos, that's fine too. Do the usual YouTube things like share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. So let's talk about this book. In fact, let's talk about a lot of different things, because I think we should. I do want to have a quick look at the poll. I'm kind of curious a little bit about the poll, because I have truly struggled. Do you know, doing a review on this book, I know the only people who are really going to go to this is be the people who like puzzles or who are undecided about puzzles. People who hate puzzles don't go and watch videos or reviews on puzzles. It's just how it is, right? But let's have a look at the poll before I go into the chat, which I absolutely will do. And it's exactly what I expected to happen with the polling. So you just don't get people coming in and watching a review on a puzzle book if they have no interest or dislike puzzles in the slightest. Not surprised at all. I suspect many of you already know about this book. So 94% like puzzles in their games. And there are 6 who are undecided. So I want to tell you a little story. I'm not going to end that poll. I'm going to keep it running. And then I'm going to talk to Steve. Steve Zurich is a patron. So Steve supports me on Patreon. He also supports Wally DM, AJ Pickett, Dungeon Dad, and there's quite a few. He's got like 19 people he supports. Thank you very much for the super chat, Steve. Very choppy video today. Yeah, sorry about that. I've noticed YouTube is running really poorly. It's awful how bad it is. It's not at my end. Whatever is going on, it's YouTube at their end. It's ridiculous how bad it has been recently. What I will also say before I get too far into this is that there's going to be a Dungeon Master Roundtable today, live. So for those of you, Steve, I know you like them. It is going to be in about an hour and a half. So 12 p.m. or 12 noon New Zealand Standard Time, which is 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Is that right? I believe it is. Which is also Eastern Standard Time. It would be 8 p.m. And if you're in Los Angeles or Pacific Standard Time, it's going to be 5 p.m. It will be on the HowtoDandD channel, YouTube channel. So HowtoDandD, Josiah HowtoDandD, his channel, or on his Twitch TV, HowtoDandD's Twitch TV or his YouTube channel. I will put it into my into the community tab so you can find it easily. I'll find that thing and I will put it there so you can go and watch. There will be 6 panel members, and we're talking about monsters. And who have we got? We've got Wally DM, we've got HowtoDandD, we've got Dungeon Masterpiece. I've got Byron, okay, he's on. We've got the Bear Bard, for those of you who don't know the Bear Bard. Bear Bard Tales, he's going to be there, Alex. And then we're also going to have Juice, master the game. And trust me, it is going to be a ball. It's going to be awesome. Right, so let's talk like about my experience with this puzzle book. There was a puzzle in here, the lucky door, which I ran for my group. And do you know what I found with this is my group struggled. And I did not understand why. I thought it was simple enough they would figure it out. So maybe it was my delivery. What I did discover is the person I thought who would figure out the puzzle the fastest and the quickest was not the person who did it. I've got a person in my group who loves doing puzzles, and he didn't figure it out. It wasn't him. There's another person who's actually very, very smart as well, and I would have thought he'd get it as well, but he didn't. The person who I thought was capable had already figured out the puzzle, but he didn't say anything. And later on, once we finally completed the puzzle and got it done, and maybe I did not deliver it particularly well, the lucky door, I discovered that that particular player, even though he had figured out the puzzle like it straight away, he had said nothing and waited to see if the others would figure it out. And so I realized that if my group is full of people, if you get one person who figures out part of it or the whole thing, and they sit back and they don't say anything and they try to let other people figure it out, it kind of pulls everything apart, and you feel like you have failed or that puzzles are the wrong thing for your group. What it became clear to me when this happened is that I need to make sure that when people figure out puzzles, they just say it. So it's not a reflection on the puzzle that I ran. It may not even be a reflection of how I delivered the puzzle. It's none of that. There's so many aspects to running puzzles that make it, not necessarily the thing that you want to do, right? When you feel like you've done something wrong. So it's really, I think one of the things you definitely got to do is you've got to make it clear to players that when they come up with an idea, make sure they say something straight away. Don't hold back. You've got to be forthcoming. And then another thing is, puzzles are hard to complete. If you play late at night and everybody's been playing after work and they're already tired, then sometimes trying to get through a puzzle is impossible. So the right time is always necessary as well. Yeah, well, Steve. So Steve, click yes on the poll, but it said undecided. Well, that's strange. That's weird. I think YouTube is running really badly today. I think that's what's going on. I like the idea of puzzles, but never seem to use them. Same as you, Fred. Yeah, this is one of the things that I've found. It's tough. There are so many barriers to it, and often it's not the puzzle itself. It's tough when they miss what you think will be reasonably simple. Yeah, so this is the thing. And one of the things that Wally would say to me is like, Fred, if they are still trying to figure it out after 5 or 10 minutes, just give them a hint or a tip. This is why I think getting them to roll a check to get a hint or a tip is don't even bother. Just give them a hint or a tip straight away. As soon as that time frame comes in, just do it. Yeah. Just keep it moving so that it keeps it fun. I have not tried any too recently though, so I ordered the book. Right now. I apologize to everybody who's finding it that the YouTube stream is so poor that they're having to leave. I totally understand. Very choppy video. Okay. It's improved. Good. I'm glad that it's finally improved. You're getting a rectified errors. Oh gosh. Okay. Dead Man Fred TV. Hello. How's it going? How many or all are unique to the book, not on the YouTube channel? So I would say just under half are not on the YouTube channel. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's a waste of my time because I can just get them off YouTube. But there's a difference between it being, one of the benefits of a puzzle being explained to you on a video is you can see how it works. But having it written down means you don't have to write everything up. And actually, there's a lot of stuff there that is breaking it down and making it super easy for you to understand what you need to remember. It's the benefit of getting, for example, listening to AJ Pickett talk about monsters is great, but getting his scripts with everything written down makes it super easy for you to remember all the stuff you need to remember about that monster because it's written down for you. So having it written down is a huge benefit. Okay? So I do feel like, and seriously, you'll be surprised just how useful the stuff in the back of the book is. Okay, Mr. Welsh, how's it going? Never underestimate the ability of your players. They are in the simplest puzzle in the evening of overthinking. Yeah, well, sometimes it's overthinking, sometimes they're just tired. Hi, Todd. I usually hope the puzzle lasts them long enough to give me time for a bathroom break. Ah, so you give them the puzzle and then walk away. Well, that's 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes if it's really difficult to get it out. Sounds good to me. What a sensible thing to do. I'll have to remember that, Todd. Yeah, I kind of have already. Would any of the puzzles work in the last room of the Dwarven excavation, replacing the exploding gem with a puzzle and treasure? That's a good point. I actually think replace exploding gem with a puzzle and treasure. Yeah, why not use the prismatic owl? There's 4 different versions of it. Do you know what I mean? Steve, I'm glad you liked the video. There are 4 different versions of it, and they all have a different theme to it. So let me just take my glasses off and sort of go through that. Now look, for those of you, if I ever get round to just flipping through this book and talking about the book, I will do it. But I'm not going to promise that because my life is really complicated right now. And I'm writing Dungeons and Dragons and roleplay game classes to run so that I can help people learn everything they need to learn. And possibly circumvent some of your prep time as well. Or help you in your prep time. I'll help you with your prep time. It's got a lot of different purposes behind that. So I would say the prismatic owl would be a very good one. I think you've got the potential for the simple ones that are like 1 page could easily be things you could use. I'm not going to say that one. Which one would be? Do you know, even the magic mouth puzzle would be a pretty good one to use, I think. The Door of Luck. I still like the Door of Luck. It's so simple. It's it's very, very elegant in its creation. Even the unlucky door is pretty cool. What else is in here that I thought was really, really impressive? No, something for that dwarven one. No. There's a lot in here. I've already given you, like, what is it? 5 different ones that you could probably utilize. Some of them aren't sort of set up to be in a dungeon. Some of them sort of would apply to a different environment, but they could easily be placed somewhere else if you really needed to. Even the magic sword puzzle, I think that would probably do fine. There's the, oh gosh, there's a lot of mirror puzzles in here as well. Grief and sorrow, no. Moving through. No, you want something that's like a single room puzzle that's sort of related to that environment, right? That would be the sort of thing you're looking for. And a real gem. And yeah, a real gem is a version of the, yeah, I think look, I would say that's probably how it's going to work for me. I would say go with the prismatic owl or the luck door or something like that. I'm sure if you look at it, you'll figure out there's something that sort of would work for you with regard to that. It covers pretty much everything you would need. Todd, I brought the PDF and now I need to look it over real good. Yeah, it is. I'm just reluctant to run puzzles from the book now because I just don't want people to not say anything, and I can't trust my players enough to not do that again, which would just annoy me. So, hi Tyler, how's it going? Hello. I actually have a fun puzzle that I stole from Harry Potter. Okay. The puzzle is that it is a dragon in an area and it is a small box that may be overlooked, filled with wind chimes. You ring the chimes and play the bells and the dragon won't attack. Okay. Pretty simple. Leave and come back. Yeah, cool. What do you got here, Steve? It was good for most of the stream, but as you answered, it got really bad again. Oh, I'm so sorry, people. But that may be the huge windstorm in the middle of the east coast of the US right now. I didn't realize that there's a big storm going on right now. Well, that's not a good sign. I have to go. I have to get to go eat dinner. No problem, Steve. I'll see you later. Yeah. Like I said, in just over an hour, Dungeon Master Roundtable, 6 panel members, going to be crazy fun. I can trust me now. It's going to be weird and wacky, and there's going to be a lot of laughter. Tyler, I introduced an ideas easy early on, and then use the basic ideas for puzzles later on, like how to rock with the light places. Right, okay. I'm not quite sure. I'm not following you. What I will say is if you are into puzzles and you are struggling, like go and check out. He gives you the Discord group, so you can go and find his Discord group. If you're the sort of person who's into puzzles and you're struggling with one, his community will help you. They're really good about that sort of thing. They're very invested in that. Todd, I'm glad that you find all the ideas helpful. Hello, big kid. Gonna have to watch this. I just noticed. I really want to add more puzzles in my games. Yeah. Now, I wanted to talk to the fact that a lot of people talk about puzzles being like, the worst aspect of Dungeons and Dragons or role-play games or Pathfinder. So what I want to do is I'm going to sit down and without actually let's create a puzzle. That's not what I'm going to do here. I've got a piece of paper and I'm going to write down and tell you all the things that are in fact puzzles that often people don't view as a puzzle, but you have in your game. Right? Taking my glasses off. That means I'm getting serious. So the first thing, if you are running a dungeon where you have to explore it, a dungeon is a maze. And you might just have just a plain old maze, but a dungeon is a puzzle because there's a good route or a bad route to take or the wrong route to take in a dungeon. There are often secret doors that allow you to get past hazards. So when you think, I don't run puzzles in my game, I'm going to tell you now, you do. Because a dungeon is a puzzle. Does that make sense? I've had this discussion with Wally before, and I know that I do run puzzles, and you all do. You just don't realize. Here's another puzzle, right? We'll write down the magic maze, which almost everybody has run a magic maze. You know the maze where you have to roll randomly with a D6 or a D10, and basically you're just waiting for them to come up with a particular role that gets them through it. It's a really, really poor way of duplicating a magic maze, but it's also the simplest way of doing it, right? But almost all of you have probably done it at some point, or found an adventure that did it, okay? Jasper Pearl. Hi Fred, of course I remember you, Jasper. You'd be surprised how many people I do remember. There are a few people who I haven't seen for a very long time that I'm wondering if they will ever come back. Okay, so that's a puzzle. It's absolutely a puzzle, the magic maze, and that's just the chart. Now, you're thinking, all right, but here's the thing, the exit out. Usually the exit out has something you have to deal with, okay? Something that you have to deal with. That last roll that you make that gets them out of the maze, there'll be a section or something you've come up with, more than likely, that they have to deal with. Now, it might be a battle or a fight, but it's still, in many respects, it's a puzzle, and you've probably all done it before. H Bookbinder. A little off topic, however, because I went the route of making Venomfang the big bad. One group of players turned the encounter in Wave Echo Cave into almost entirely a social encounter. So fun. And yes, you can. I'm in the process of trying to put together a program so I can show people how to run through Wave Echo Cave on Lighthall. It's going to be free. And also run them through it. So not just explain and demonstrate. I got the maps printed. I'm waiting. It's going to take me 4 weeks for the blooming thing to come back and be laminated. But Wave Echo Cave is a cave area. It's a dungeon essentially, but it's also a puzzle. So navigating your way around that's a puzzle. Okay, here's another thing. Imagine you're in the wilderness and you're traveling the wilderness. Okay, that's a puzzle. Why is that? Why is traveling the wilderness a puzzle? Think about it. Okay, here's my rationale for you. There's mountains. Going over the top of the mountains is the hardest route. Now, if you have a map, or you can see where you're going, you'll see there are mountains here. Probably not the best route to take. Maybe going through a valley or over the foothills is the smartest route. It's a simple puzzle, but it's still a puzzle. There's a river here. Crossing the river might be too difficult, okay? Particularly if it's very wide and running fast. So what's the puzzle if I decide that actually there's no valley, there's no way to get past the mountains, but I need to get to the other side, and going around is not practical because there are too many things in the way, like maybe the enemies or forces, but there's a river. So cutting down a tree that's right beside the river and having it drop down and fall across the river so you can walk across it is completing a puzzle. Does that make sense? So that's puzzle. So crossing a river. Almost all of you have done this, I suspect, or probably will do it in the future. That's a puzzle, okay? So you come to you're in say a cavern, or you come to a crevasse, okay? Crevasse. And you've got to cross the crevasse. Crossing a crevasse or getting to the other side of a crevasse, okay, that's a puzzle. So now you've got to make the choice. Can you get a rope across it? Can you just grappling hook it over with a grappling hook and a rope? And catch onto something? Will that give you a string line that you can walk across, or you can scale across in some way? Or is this best route to climb down the face of the crevasse, walk along the bottom of it, and then back up and climb back up the other side? It's still a puzzle. Okay? Are we starting to understand just how often we use puzzles, even though they're not necessarily listed as a puzzle? They are puzzles that we solve in our world when we're dealing with exploration. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's another example of a puzzle. Now, for a lot of you, you may not be familiar with this. So one of the things when trying to find a secret door. So finding a secret door is often in modern games viewed as you just make a perception check to find what will probably be a telltale sign that there is a secret door there. And then you make an investigation check to figure out how to open the secret door, if you're using all the mechanics. Okay? But that's not really how secret doors work, are they? When you think about how a secret door works, it's a puzzle. The activation of that secret door might be there's a coat rack or coat hanger on the wall that needs to be pulled down, or you need to press in. So let's take Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You need to press in on the breasts on the statue that are part of the fireplace. That's manipulating your environment. As soon as you start manipulating your environment, you are dealing with a puzzle. And I think one of the greatest losses we've had is people going straight to mechanics of rolling a perception check or a investigation check to deal with finding secret doors. Isn't the idea of finding a secret door far more exciting and engaging and much more likely not to be found if people don't, move the book and the bookshelf that triggers the secret door and opens the panel and moves the bookshelf out of the way? That is a puzzle. It may not be obvious that it's a puzzle. It's not set up as a puzzle, but it is definitely a puzzle. And I think you'll find that the discovery of secret doors have, and I haven't really talked about secret doors in the past, but maybe I should. The concept of finding a secret door should really be, I think, about manipulating the environment rather than rolling a sodding dice. It is used ultimately to reward those people who have big numbers on their stats and so forth, rather than people who are actually engaged in manipulating and doing stuff with their environment. Now, one of the things that Jeremy Crawford and Mike Mills did say when using perception and investigation, but particularly perception, is players should still be telling you where they look and what they do as part of that perception check. And we've lost a lot of that. I think people have sort of eliminated that aspect to the game. But like I said, finding a secret door is a puzzle. You just all you have done is you've just codified it and given it a dice roll if you're not doing the other stuff. Still a puzzle. Hello, how's it going? KDONV. I'm not sure what else to say. Great seeing you live. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying seeing me live. Surprisingly, people are more shocked when they jump onto Discord and actually talk to me in person. It can be done. Okay, so that's a puzzle. Let's think of another thing that we often do in our games that we may not view as a puzzle, but are in fact a puzzle. There are elements to dealing with a social encounter that are in fact a puzzle. Now, figuring out the motives of the villain, okay, or an NPC, okay, is a puzzle. You ask questions and they reveal clues to what their real or true motives are. Now you'll say, oh, that's a social interaction, but actually it's a puzzle. It's a different type of puzzle. It's presented in a very different way, but it is actually a puzzle. So when I had the discussion with Wally about I don't really run puzzles and then I realized actually, I do. And he explained sorts of things that, well, this book actually shows you how wide it all falls. Like the kinds of things you are doing in your games is so broad in its nature that you actually are dealing with puzzles all the time. They may seem like very, very simple puzzles, but they fit the environment and they are puzzles of a nature. Okay, now when you don't have to figure out the motives of an NPC, if you figure out the motives of an NPC, then you can give them the thing they want, or do the thing that will get them to be on board with you. That's part of the puzzle. All right. What are the other things that you come across that are certainly part of a puzzle? We've covered most of the things that you're generally coming across, right? And I would say there's another aspect to this, and that is infiltrating a castle. Okay, infiltrating a castle so that you're not discovered is a puzzle. Because one, you have to figure out the best route to take. You may part of solving that puzzle is knowing where everything is. I think a lot of the times people assume that puzzles are things with keys and that's it. But often you can have a puzzle that doesn't have any keys. So once you've figured out the best route in, then you have to figure out the method of entry. So is that going to be a grappling hook over the wall? Very simple puzzle, but still there. Is that possible? Are there too many people on the wall so you can't use a grappling hook? Is the best way to actually use a spell and use mold stone or earth and just cut away underneath the wall or through the wall so that you can get into the castle? Is the best route in terms of doing this, getting into the castle and infiltrating it, to disguise yourself? Is actually still a puzzle. So all a puzzle is finding a solution to an objective or a goal. That's all a puzzle is. And you use them all the time. So that's why I say the book is definitely worth your effort. And for those of you who ever come across anybody who says puzzles are terrible, the worst part of the game, okay, or don't understand them, just say, guess what? Navigating a dungeon is a puzzle. Navigating a maze or a magic maze is a puzzle, because a dungeon is a maze. Traveling the wilderness, finding the best route is a puzzle. Crossing a river without being washed away is a puzzle. Crossing a crevasse, okay, is a puzzle, or chasm. Finding a secret door is a puzzle. Figuring out the motives of an NPC so you can give them what they want is a puzzle. And infiltrating a castle. There are so many examples of this that are all puzzles, and you use them and have to engage in them all the time. All right, I think I've probably said enough. I do hope that this was useful to people. The poll has proven to be very interesting, and I hope that... hello, how's it going, Overboard? How's it going, Joe? I hope that this was useful to you in some way, because I've been wanting to talk about the fact that people use puzzles all the time. They just don't realize it. So, yeah. I hope this was useful to you. Anyway, I think I've said enough. I should go get myself ready. I'm supposed to be in a Dungeon Master Roundtable in less than an hour, and I need to get things organized, and I probably need to eat as well. So thank you to everybody who showed up. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me. Thank you, Steve, for the super chat. I just want to say now that for those of you who are wondering about what's going on with my channel, the sorts of things that are going to happen is the thing that I never thought I would ever be able to achieve. It's the thing I always wanted to have on my channel, but I never thought it was going to happen. I'm finally going to get to teach Dungeons and Dragons. Not run games for people. I'm finally going to get to teach people Dungeons and Dragons. That's going to happen. And the YouTube channel will present some of that, but not all of that, because there are limitations to what I can do on YouTube, and I can do it more effectively in other places. So all the things you might have always wanted, you'd be surprised they're probably coming. Thank you for checking this out. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the night, the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours, And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Right, there we go. I think we're done.